She vanished on her birthday without a trace. But what they found behind the wall 6 years later changed everything. Don't miss the shocking truth. Subscribe now and watch till the end. It started with screaming. Not the kind of playful shrieks you'd expect from a backyard birthday party, but the raw, bone-deep kind that punches through walls and windows. The kind that makes the birds go silent in the trees. The kind that makes every parent run, not walk, toward their child. August 13th, 2017, 6:17 p.m. The cake had just been brought out, lit with 16 crooked pink candles flickering like dying stars in the evening wind. Balloons bobbed lazily on a string fence. Plastic cups full of orange soda and lemon punch sat half-drunk on paper plates, already wilting from the summer humidity. And in the middle of the yard, a dozen teenagers had gathered in a messy circle, chanting the birthday girl's name, Riley Madden, as she grinned, blushed, and prepared to make a wish. She never got the chance. 1 second, Riley stood smiling in front of the cake, her younger sister Anna clapping beside her. The next, the lights flickered just once, barely enough to cause alarm. A strange hum, maybe from the speakers or the old generator in the garage, buzzed for a second. Then a gust of wind, and Riley was gone. Just gone. Not run away. Not wandered off. Not hiding. Gone. There were people all around her, witnesses, guests, family. Her best friends. Her boyfriend. Her 8-year-old cousin. Her parents. Her little sister. And not one of them could say where she went, only that she was standing there one moment, then not. At first, they thought it was a prank. Something elaborate. A TikTok stunt or magic trick. Maybe Riley had planned a surprise, something dramatic for her sweet 16. But 30 seconds passed, then a minute, then 5, 10. The cake began to sag in the heat. The sparklers fizzled out. Laughter faded. Confusion settled into panic. People began calling her name, searching behind hedges, under tables in the street. Riley. No answer. It was Anna who screamed first. She'd been standing right next to her sister, close enough to smell the vanilla lotion on her wrist. She said she felt Riley's arm brush hers, then nothing, like she'd vanished in a mist. That scream split the evening in two, the before and the after. By 6:40, her mother was on the phone with 911, voice trembling so hard the operator asked her twice to repeat herself. Her father ran up and down the street barefoot, searching yards, knocking on doors, yelling Riley's name until his throat went raw. Guests helped, forming search lines, scouring the neighborhood with flashlights, their sneakers crunching over the crushed streamers and forgotten party favors. The police arrived by 7:08. They checked the house, the basement, the surrounding streets. They interviewed every guest, every neighbor. But there were no signs of forced entry. No tire tracks. No screams. No struggle. Riley had simply ceased to exist. The backyard, the scene of her last known location, was sealed off with yellow tape. An officer collected the cake knife and the melted candles. They photographed the untouched presents, the deflated balloons. Every detail was cataloged. Every face was logged. Drones were sent out over the woods behind the Madden home. Helicopters circled overhead. Nothing. News broke within hours. Teen girl vanishes from her own birthday party. The story went national the next morning. Riley's face, bright-eyed, freckled, full of life, was plastered across morning news shows, pinned to telephone poles, shared across every social media platform. The Maddens held press conferences. They pleaded. They wept. They posted videos. They offered a $50,000 reward. Still nothing. The days that followed were hell. Anna refused to sleep in her room. She curled up in Riley's bed, clutching her sister's denim jacket, convinced she could still smell her shampoo. Their mother, Karen, stopped eating. Their father, Greg, barely spoke. Volunteers came in droves. Churches organized prayer circles. Candlelight vigils were held on the lawn. The police chased every theory. Had Riley run away? There was no note, no reason, no sign. Had she been abducted? But by who? No one suspicious had been seen. There were no vehicles, no weaknesses, no motive. The home security cameras had glitched at the exact moment she disappeared. Corrupted footage, nothing salvageable. It was as if the universe had decided Riley Madden did not belong to it anymore. Weeks turned to months. Her case remained open, but the momentum waned. Reporters stopped calling. Flyers were taken down. The family hired a private investigator, a man named Brooks who'd worked missing person cases before. He lived in their guest room for 5 months, leaving each morning with his battered notebook and returning late, face drawn, teeth clenched. He found nothing. He left without a word one day, just packed and drove off. The Maddens unraveled. Greg began drinking. Not publicly, not sloppily. Quietly. Alone. Karen became obsessive. She printed out every single online comment about the case, stuck them in binders, annotated them like a professor dissecting ancient texts. She built a wall of photos and timelines and red string in what used to be the dining room. They fought. They accused each other of not doing enough, of doing too much, of losing her. Anna became invisible. At 12, she felt herself slipping into the background of her own family's tragedy. She stopped talking at school, refused to go to therapy. She hated the way people whispered around her, the pitying stares, the careful voices. She hated that no one talked about Riley like she was real anymore, only a picture, a warning, a memory. Years passed. Karen and Greg divorced in silence. No yelling. Just two people hollowed out by grief, too tired to keep holding hands in the dark. By 2023, Riley Madden had become a local legend. The girl who vanished in the wind. Reddit threads buzzed with conspiracy theories. Was it a cult? A time rift? A government experiment? Some even accused the family, Greg especially. Online sleuths picked apart old footage, dissecting his body language, the tremble in his voice. Anna turned 17 in May. That's when the dreams started. It began with flickers, flashes of color, the smell of birthday candles, her sister's voice in her ear whispering, "Don't look." Then she began seeing things during the day, brief, jarring visions. A hallway she didn't recognize. A locked door. Red fabric. A hand with a jagged scar. At first, she thought she was going crazy. The school counselor gently suggested PTSD, maybe repressed memories surfacing. But Anna knew it wasn't just trauma. It felt real. Too real. She didn't tell her parents. Not yet. Not until the dream changed. One night in June, she saw the whole thing. Start to finish. Like a memory cracked open after years of hiding. She was back in the yard. The party. The cake. Riley beside her, laughing. Then, the flicker. But this time, Anna turned her head. She saw something. Someone. A man. He wasn't at the party. She was sure of it. Older. Maybe 30. Dressed like a landscape. Tanskirt, cargo pants. He was standing just past the fence, behind the hydrangeas. No one else seemed to see him. But Riley did. Riley's eyes went wide. Her smile dropped. And then, she walked toward him. Not ran. Not screamed. Just walked like in a trance. And then she vanished. Anna woke up screaming. The next morning, she told her mother everything. At first, Karen looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Then, something changed in her expression. She opened a drawer in the kitchen and pulled out an old photograph. Not of Riley, of a man. Anna's blood froze. It was him, the landscaper. Karen's hands shook as she explained. His name was Jacob Rayner. He worked on the yard a few times this summer before Riley vanished. Quiet guy, polite, no record. But there had been something strange. He'd asked odd questions. About their schedules. About Riley. They hadn't thought much of it. At the time, he was just another contractor. They brought the name to the police. It had never come up in the investigation. He wasn't listed on any party guest list. He wasn't a registered offender. But when they searched for him now, he was gone. No address. No forwarding number. Just disappeared. Until someone found an old storage unit he'd abandoned in New Jersey. Inside, among boxes of tools and faded receipts, were dozens of photographs. All of teenage girls. And in the very back, taped to the inside of a metal locker, was a picture of Riley, taken from behind the bushes. On her 16th birthday. That was the crack. The crack in the cold case that hadn't budged in 6 years. A man no one remembered. A face Anna only saw in a dream. A photograph hidden in a locker 4 states away. And beneath that photo, a receipt for a secluded cabin in upstate New York. Booked August 10th, 2017. 3 days before Riley vanished. The search was about to begin again. But this time, the Maddens weren't just hoping for answers. They were prepared to face what they were never ready to believe. Riley hadn't vanished. She'd been taken, and someone, somewhere, still had her. The road to the cabin was almost completely devoured by trees, old, gnarled things, arching together like a tunnel, their limbs skeletal even in summer. Anna sat in the back seat, gripping the frayed edges of her jeans with clammy fingers. Her mom was driving. Her dad, unusually quiet, sat beside her, a heavy silence pooling between them like fog. They hadn't spoken more than 10 words to each other since the night Anna had told them about the dream. But when the police found the photograph, Riley's photograph, taped to that locker wall, something shifted. For the first time in years, Karen and Greg Madden had something in common again. Purpose. It was the detectives who traced the rental receipt to the cabin, one buried deep in a forgotten patch of forest land outside Scroon Lake, New York. The property had changed owners twice in the past 6 years. Records were vague, maintenance irregular. No one had been there in months. But according to the old logs, someone matching Jacob Rayner's description had stayed there for exactly 3 nights. August 10th through August 13th, 2017. He'd left one day before Riley vanished. The police didn't want the Maddens involved. They urged them to stay back, let the professionals handle it. But Karen refused. And when Karen made a decision, the world either moved or got crushed beneath her. By the time they reached the trailhead near the cabin, it was nearly dusk. A small convoy of unmarked cars lined the gravel clearing. Local law enforcement, 2 FBI agents, a K-9 unit. Anna climbed out of the car and stared up the trail, heart pounding like a war drum against her ribs. "I want to come," she said. Karen started to object, but Greg gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "She needs to," so they let her. The hike was brutal. Thick brush, uneven dirt, the buzzing of unseen insects rising like static around them. Flashlights swept through the trees. Radios crackled. Anna stayed close to her parents, the woods pressing in tighter with every step. Then they saw it, the cabin. It looked like it had grown out of the forest itself, half swallowed by moss and decay, roof sagging, shutters broken, the porch a brittle skeleton of wood. But there was something wrong about it, something unnatural. It wasn't just abandoned. It was wrong. The K-9S circled it carefully. Officers barked commands, moved in formations. Anna stayed back as the agents breached the door. Her ears rang with tension, every second stretching like wire about to snap. Silence. Then, clear, a rush of boots, shouts, movement, but no screaming. No one. The inside was worse than the outside. The walls were covered in newspaper clippings, dozens, hundreds, many of them focused on missing girl from across the Northeast. A single, rusted mattress sat in the corner, chained to the wall. A lockbox with surgical gloves, a burner phone, a jar of hair ties, and several empty notebooks filled with erratic scribbling in red ink. One word repeated over and over: obey. But the worst thing, what chilled Anna to her core, was the painting. A childlike, grotesque rendering scrawled in black, paint across the far wall. A girl with no face, standing in front of a birthday cake. 16 candles. The words above it read, "She saw me." That's when the dog started barking. It had wandered around the back of the cabin. Its handler followed, shouting commands, flashlight slicing through the trees. And then he called out. They found a cellar, not under the cabin, but hidden 20 yards away, sunk into the forest floor, camouflaged with branches and leaves. A rusted iron hatch with a broken padlock. The smell hit first, rot, dampness, something that didn't belong in the woods. They opened it. Steps led downward. The air was thick. Mold crawled along the stone walls. It looked like an old storm shelter, until they reached the bottom. There were chains on the wall, a filthy cot, a bucket, scratches carved into the concrete, hundreds of them, like someone had tried to count the days. And on the floor, half buried in dust, they found a necklace. Anna stepped forward before anyone could stop her. She picked it up with trembling fingers, flipping it over. A tiny silver pendant shaped like a feather. Riley's. She had given it to her the morning of her birthday. Anna had teased her for wearing the same necklace every day since freshman year. Riley had laughed and said, "It's my lucky charm. If I ever get lost, follow the feather." Anna collapsed to her knees. Her sister had been here. They tested the DNA on the hair wrapped around the necklace. It was a match. Riley had been in that cellar, likely held there for some time. But there were no signs of her now, no body, no blood, no evidence of death. Just absence. Another ghost in the trees. The media exploded again. For the first time in 6 years, the story was back. The cabin, the painting, the scratch marks, the necklace. People demanded answers. But Jacob Rayner had disappeared. His last known address was abandoned. Bank accounts closed. Cell phone deactivated in 2019. No trace of him anywhere. It was like he'd never existed. But then, another break. 2 weeks after the cabin was discovered, an anonymous tip came into the Scroon Lake Sheriff's Office. A woman's voice. Shaky, crying. She said 3 words. "I saw her." Then she hung up. The number was a burner. Untraceable. But the call had been placed from a payphone, one of the last still operating in a rundown truck stop in Vermont, 70 miles from the cabin. The Maddens didn't wait. They went. It was a decaying shell of a place. Yellow light, broken tile, a vending machine buzzing like it was ready to catch fire. The payphone sat near the bathroom. Anna stared at it for a long time, hand hovering over the receiver like it might speak again. Inside the bathroom stall, someone had scratched something into the metal door. Feather. Just that. Anna traced the letters. Her pulse roared in her ears. Her parents exchanged a look, not daring to say it aloud. But they all knew. Riley had left that message. She was alive. Somewhere. The next few weeks moved like lightning. Law enforcement broadened their search to neighboring states. Psychic hotlines buzzed. TV crews stalked the Maddens like vultures. Karen refused to leave her home. Greg began sleeping in his truck, phone glued to his hand. Anna stopped going to school. She couldn't sit in a classroom while her sister was still out there, waiting. Then came the package. It arrived on their doorstep in late September. No return address. No markings. Just a padded envelope. Inside was a flash drive and a note. "You were supposed to forget her." Karen plugged it into her laptop with shaking fingers. The file was titled simply, R. It was a video. Shaky. Grainy. Night vision. A girl sitting on the floor of what looked like a basement. Her face was gaunt. Her wrists bruised. Her hair shorn, close to her head. But it was her. It was Riley. She didn't speak, just stared at the camera with wide, hollow eyes. Then, she reached slowly for something off-screen. The screen went black. Anna couldn't breathe. Karen sobbed. Greg threw the chair across the room and collapsed to his knees. The file was encrypted. They brought it to the FBI. The metadata had been wiped, but one clue remained. A small reflection in Riley's eye. A window, with bars. And behind those bars, a red light blinking. Like a radio tower. They scanned hundreds of towers across New England. They found one. An old tower in northern Vermont, next to an abandoned radio station. It had been decommissioned for years. When the agents arrived, it was empty. But in the basement, they found another room. A mattress. Chains. Hair. Scratches. And on the wall, written in ash, "Don't look behind the mirror." But there was no mirror. Only a metal panel screwed into the wall. When they removed it, they found another flash drive. And behind it, claw marks. Anna wasn't allowed to see the new footage, but her parents did, and something in them changed afterward. Karen started carrying a gun. Greg stopped drinking. And Anna began to dream again. Not like before. These were different. She saw flashes of Riley. Older, thinner, her voice hoarse, whispering things Anna couldn't make out. But one word echoed again and again. 9. She didn't know what it meant. Not yet, but she would soon. Because another message was coming. One that would change everything they thought they knew about Riley's disappearance. And about who had really taken her. It began with the number 9, whispered over and over in Anna's dreams. First barely audible, like wind brushing leaves, then louder, clearer, spoken in Riley's voice. That same voice she hadn't heard in 6 years. Not since the moment Riley turned to blow out her candles and disappeared from the earth. Now, it followed her everywhere. In the silence of her room. In the spaces between sentences. Sometimes in the middle of conversations, she'd drift and hear it, like an echo from a forgotten place, calling her back. 9. The investigators didn't know what to make of it. Could be an address, a date, a countdown, a room number, a cell number. Greg thought it was a warning. Karen thought it was a location. But Anna, she believed it was a message meant for her and her alone. The flash drives had stopped arriving. No more cryptic footage. No more dirty basements or scratched walls. Weeks passed, then months. The media cycle cooled again. Tips dried up. Experts on TV said it was likely someone playing a sick game, toying with a grieving family. But Anna knew better. She felt it. Riley was still out there, and she was still trying to speak. Karen insisted they move. She couldn't sleep in the house anymore. Not with Riley's room still untouched. Not with the shadow of that birthday forever hanging over them. She bought a smaller place on the edge of town, gray, modern, sterile. Greg didn't come. He stayed behind. Anna split her time between them, but her heart lived nowhere. Not anymore. Her only compass was the dream, and the number 9. Then came the break. It wasn't from a detective or a psychic. It came from a boy, a sophomore named Declan, who sat 3 rows behind her in history class and never talked to anyone. He passed her a note. At first, Anna thought it was some sick joke, another pitying kid trying to get her attention. But the note didn't say anything about her sister. It said, "I've seen the man from your dreams." She turned in her seat, heart crawling in her throat. Declan wouldn't meet her eyes, but his hand was trembling. They met in the back lot after school, behind the old gym. He was shaking when he spoke. His voice cracked like glass under pressure. He told her he lived next door to a man named Ralph Juno, a recluse, maybe in his late 40s, who'd moved into the trailer across the woods 2 years ago. Never came out during the day. Had blackout curtains. No job, no car. But every now and then, he said, strange sounds came from the trailer. Screams. Not loud, muffled, but real. And once, just once, Declan had seen something in the window. A girl. Thin, pale, sitting motionless in the dark. He swore she looked just like Riley. Anna brought the information to her mother. Karen didn't hesitate. She called the police. But the property wasn't listed in Ralph Juno's name. No known owner. No utilities registered. No cause for a search warrant. So Karen did what she always did when the world failed her. She took matters into her own hands. 2 nights later, she parked 3 blocks away from the trailer. She wore black, gloves, a flashlight. Anna sat beside her in the passenger seat, pulse thundering. "You're not coming," Karen said. "I am." Greg showed up 10 minutes later. Karen looked at him, surprised. He said nothing, just opened the back seat door and climbed in. For the first time in 6 years, the Maddens moved as one. They parked near the tree line and approached on foot. The trailer was barely visible through the brush. No porch light, no sound, no signs of life. Karen slipped to the side, Greg flanking the other. Anna crept behind them, holding her breath. Then movement. A light flicked on inside the trailer, faint and green. Anna crept closer, peering through a crack in the blinds, and froze. It was her, Riley, alive, older, gaunt. Her hair buzzed short. She sat on the floor, chained by one ankle to a radiator, staring into space. A television flickered in front of her, playing static. Then a man stepped into view. Not Jacob Rayner. Someone else. Taller. Thinner. Wearing a surgical mask. Anna gasped, and in that moment, the man turned toward the window. Their eyes met, and then the trailer exploded into motion. Lights. Screams. The sound of a door slamming. Anna's mother ran for the back. Greg smashed through the front with a tire iron. But the man was gone. The trailer was empty except for Riley, who recoiled like a feral animal as Karen fell to her knees beside her. Greg undid the chain. Riley didn't speak. She didn't move. She just stared straight ahead, lips moving silently. Anna pressed her hand against her sister's face. Riley blinked, then whispered, "Not him." "What?" It wasn't him. Karen wrapped her arms around her daughter, sobbing. Greg called the police. But Anna just sat there, staring at her sister, wondering, if not him, then who? Riley was taken to the hospital. Malnourished, bruised, but alive. Alive. She didn't speak for 2 days. But when she did, her words changed everything. "I was never alone," she said. They leaned in, listening. There were others. Girls. 8 of them. In rooms. Different places. They moved us. Swapped us. Like pieces. She looked at Anna. "You were number 9. The blood drained from Anna's face. "You were supposed to be next." The Maddens didn't sleep that night. The FBI came. A task force was formed. Riley described the places she'd been held. The cabin, the radio station, a warehouse with red floors, a basement with broken mirrors. She gave names, details, rituals. The phrase repeated at every site. Obey the 9. Not 9 girls. 9 men. A network. A system. Traffickers. Organized. Precise. Invisible. The man in the trailer, Ralph Juneau, was just one spoke in a vast wheel. Riley had overheard conversations, seen faces, remembered routes. She didn't just escape. She had the map. Investigations reopened in 4 states. 5 of the men were arrested. 3 committed suicide. 1 disappeared before they could reach him. And 1 was never identified. The man at the top. The one Riley never saw, only heard. The one who called himself the father. And Riley, despite everything, knew one final truth. He was still out there, and he still had the others. The return of Riley Madden should have been the end. For most families, a miracle like that, finding a child alive after 6 years, would be the closing chapter in a long, painful story. But for the Maddens, it was only the beginning of a much darker truth. The reunion was quiet. No press conference. No cameras. The FBI advised secrecy until they could secure the other victims. Riley slept in a locked hospital room under 24-hour guard, and for weeks, she drifted in and out of lucidity, her mind broken into fragments like a mirror struck by a hammer. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just whispered names. Claire, Nina, Maya, Tess. 8 girls, held in places like she was. Conditioned, isolated, broken down. Trained to obey the 9. When one disobeyed, she was moved. When one resisted, she vanished. Anna sat by Riley's side each night, holding her sister's fragile hand in silence. She tried to ask questions, but always stopped short. She didn't need to know everything. Not yet. The scars spoke louder than the words. The FBI called the network Project Echo, a decentralized trafficking operation that spanned 3 states, always one step ahead of the system. The men weren't predators in the shadows. They were janitors, tech contractors, substitute teachers, delivery drivers. The father, the head, was said to move through them like smoke. Never seen, never named. Riley had only heard his voice. Deep, calm, kind even. That was what made it worse. He called the girls his daughters. He referred to Anna by name. She was next. That much was clear. At first, the Maddens didn't understand why. Why Anna? Why target a second child from the same family? Why risk exposure? But Riley explained. The girls weren't chosen at random. They were chosen based on one thing. The pain their families would feel. That was the point. To hurt. To shatter. Because that pain fed something. Something Riley couldn't explain in words. They fed on it, she whispered one night, curled up on her hospital bed. Not just the men. All of it. The house. The air. The rooms. They felt alive. Like they remembered things. Like they liked the pain. Karen wept quietly. Greg stood in the corner, fists clenched. Anna didn't sleep for 3 days after that. The FBI uncovered 3 of the other girls. Alive. Broken but alive. They were found in underground chambers beneath an old nursery school in Maine. 1 girl had been missing since 2013. The other 5 were never found. One of them, Claire, was the oldest. Riley said she tried to fight. She had a scar across her ribs from where she was punished. One day, She whispered something in Riley's ear. "If I disappear, remember the number." Riley asked what number, and Claire said, 9. It was always 9. Anna began seeing the number everywhere. It was on billboards, on receipts, in dreams. Once, she found it scratched into the condensation on her bathroom mirror. No one else in the house admitted to doing it. Another time, she woke up with it drawn on her palm in black marker. She knew something was coming. So did Riley. She grew stronger by the week. She spoke more, ate more, but she never left the hospital. She refused. "They'll be waiting," she said. "I know how they work. The moment I go home, I disappear again." The FBI tried to trace the origin of the flash drives, the burner phone, the calls, but the father had covered his tracks too well. No fingerprints, no facial recognition, no history, a ghost. Then, on January 9th, 2024, Riley received a letter. No stamp, no return address, just sitting on the windowsill of her hospital room one morning, as if it had grown there overnight. Inside was a single photograph of Anna, taken from behind a tree. She was walking to school, headphones in, backpack swinging, oblivious. On the back of the photo, one sentence: "She's late." Riley collapsed. They moved Anna immediately. New school, new town, armed protection. But Anna knew it didn't matter. He always found them. So she stopped hiding and started hunting. Riley gave the FBI everything she remembered. Names, faces, voices. But the last clue came not from Riley, but from Anna. She had another dream. This one was different, more vivid, not like the others. She was back in a trailer, sitting where Riley had once been. A red light blinked from the ceiling. The door creaked open, and he walked in. The father. She never saw his face, not fully, just the edges. A gold ring. The sound of old jazz playing softly behind him. And a word. Little Finch. Anna woke up screaming. She told the agents about the dream, about the ring, the music, the phrase. At first, they dismissed it, just a mind-echoing trauma. But then one analyst remembered something. Years ago, a man had been questioned in a separate trafficking ring in Connecticut. Never charged, never arrested, but his file was marked. Because during his interview, when asked why he targeted children, he had smiled and said, "Because they're just little finches waiting for someone to break their wings." His name was Wallace Emery, former child psychologist, turned cult therapist. He disappeared in 2011 after his license was revoked. The FBI reopened his file. Everything matched. Height, voice, the jazz, the ring. They finally had a name and a location. A farmhouse in New Hampshire, paid for in cash, owned under a fake shell company tied to a cult retreat that dissolved over a decade ago. They went in at dawn. No knock, no warning. Inside, they found the truth, the real truth. Not just about Riley or the other girls, but about why the father existed at all. The farmhouse had no electricity, only candles, dozens of them. The walls were covered in handwritten scripture about pain, obedience, control. In the cellar, they found 9 dolls, handmade, each with hair clipped from real girls. The 9th doll was incomplete, missing a face. Anna's name was stitched into the fabric. And in the upstairs bedroom, on the desk, they found a photo album. The Maddens were on the first page. Every birthday, every Christmas, every school play. Photos that had never been taken by the family. Taken through windows, from shadows. The last page was blank, except for a typed sentence. The family must break for the ritual to be complete. But Wallace Emery was gone. A hatch in the floor was left open, leading to a tunnel carved into the woods. There were signs someone had lived down there for years. He had been watching, listening, following. They searched for days. No sign. The father vanished like smoke once again. But something had changed. Riley was safe. Anna was safe. And Project Echo was collapsing. The remaining men were arrested. The girls were reunited with families. Laws were rewritten. The Madden story made headlines across the world. But the scars remained. Anna had never returned to school. Riley never moved home. Karen and Greg tried to rebuild, but something between them had permanently fractured, like glass that could never fit back together quite right. Sometimes, late at night, Anna walks into Riley's room and just sits with her. They don't talk. They just remember. One night, Riley whispered, "I think he's still watching." Anna asked why. Riley looked out the window and said, "Because he didn't finish." That winter, a blizzard shut down their neighborhood. And in the morning, Anna woke to find a single feather on her pillow. Not from a bird, from her sister's old necklace. The one that had been taken from her 6 years ago. No note, no sign of forced entry, just a feather, and a whisper in the wind. 9.